So now white played b5, and immediately putting more pressure on c6. And here Vruzen, how does he protect c6? Well, he protects it by simply playing the liberating e5, because the queen is now protecting c6, so he can always answer takes with bishop takes c6. White though plays b6, and now Vruzen takes the time to play e4. So he has now these quite dominating pawns in the centre. Queen h5, and now Vruzen takes on b6, so he's immediately attacking that knight, so white has to do something, can't take time out to play queen takes h7. Although that looks a bit dangerous, maybe queen g8 is answered by king e7. So white really has to do something about this queen side threat. So he plays knight takes b6. Now Vruzen simply takes on b6, and now plays bishop e6. So in this position, by playing bishop e6, he can always answer queen h7 by king f7 now. So then he's got rook h8. So white took on e6. Vruzen took back. Now a4. So now we have these, potentially dangerous passed pawns to consider. Vruzen doesn't panic. He plays king g8. After a5, he now plays c5. So he's getting his own pawns going. So it's two pawn rollers. Black's in the centre against white's queenside pawn roller. So e3, and now queen f3. So attacking the rook on a8, and also preparing b7. But now Vruzen just blocks the queen's influence with rook e4. After rook takes c5. Sorry, there's also, c5 was on, so rook e4 also attacked f4. So it's attacking and defending. So he takes on f4. After b7, now rook f8. So white does seem to have, dangerous pawns here. But he's only got his rook in play to really help them at the moment. This queen's influence is restricted, and the rook and bishop are out of the game for the moment. But white uses that rook on c5 anyway to play rook c8. And now Vruzen, he takes on e2, winning the exchange, and takes on d2. So he's basically allowing white to queen the pawn, because he's done maybe a lot of calculation in this position, and he's prepared basically to play the position two rooks against queen. He plays here rook e to e8. Let's have a look what Rybka thought of this. Queen d6 would be inferior, giving white an advantage still, just blowing all of black's advantage. If Vruzen had played this, seemingly to try and stop the pawn simply, then apparently white's doing well with a6, for example. If d3, now queening is okay for white apparently, but Vruzen plays perhaps a stronger move, rook here, so retaining the advantage according to Rybka, but letting white spectacularly have two queens on the board. Vruzen takes on c8, so he's got situation two rooks against queen, and off the check king h8, white plays queen a4 as if to guide this a pawn, but Vruzen plays rook fd8, so he's going to march his own d pawn still. So we have another battle now of the single pass pawns against each other, but after a6 and d3, white actually decided that he'd had enough. His pawn's not really going anywhere because these rooks are going to be stronger than this queen, and also rook c2 is going to be threatened in some variations, especially with this queen protecting d8. So actually white, with two queens here, resigned. So this is one of the interesting games that Vruzen showed us at the airport while we were waiting for the plane, which actually never arrived. Our flight was cancelled and we had to stay another couple of nights in Gibraltar. So we had to book a return flight with another airline. Anyway, so let's have a quick overview and summary of this game. A French defence kind of advanced variation, played in a kind of old-fashioned but modern way, with queen b6 with the idea of c takes d4. So I don't know if you're aware of this way of playing the position. So you've still got the idea of bishop d7 to b5, a nice positional idea, but it's taking account of modern kind of piece play. So this white plays for a lot of piece pressure, and black plays this f5, seemingly delaying his kingside castling, breaking the rules in a way. Just it's more important to block the bishop in this position and to try and isolate this pawn more. And basically, black, after this d4, he's prepared, to try and get this strong, centre. So he starts building his centre, that pawn on d4. He takes on e5. He doesn't mind this pressure against his king. So this position is really quite sharp and requires quite a bit of calculation. And he ends up manoeuvring his bishops. So one of his bishops is going to be supporting e5 and also pressurising f4. And the other bishop seems to be just parrying white's queen movements all the time in the early stage of the game. So after this queen f3, bishop d7. And now we see this, pawn versus pawn battle. So will white's queenside pawn generation compensate for black's advancement in the centre? Well, it seems black, he gains the edge here with his central pawns. And position remains still quite sharp, but Rosen's, by this stage, I think he'd solved most of his problems. And after e3, he was so he's threatening that bishop, but white answered with attacking the rook, and then black answered with rook e4, and now white took on c5. So in effect, sacking the bishop here, but in this particular position, it would have been a little bit dangerous. Actually, let's have a quick look. If taking the bishop, maybe this would have been better for black as well. But Rosen just took on f4. Maybe this was an inaccuracy. I think he might have mentioned actually that was an inaccuracy. Maybe taking on d2 is more accurate in this position. But also Rybka is actually crying out for a different move, queen f8 here. That's interesting, queen f8. So the example variation, rook c4, and now taking on d2, or taking on f4 with the knight is very strong apparently. So there's a little nuance there. So anyway, knight takes f4, and after b7, it's not so clear according to Rybka now, because white's queenside pawns are very dangerous. So as we've seen in previous videos, the dynamics of pawns, it's very difficult to estimate them sometimes. But this is still, quite a rich middle game position with queens and rooks on, and still the pawns, are outweighing material loss in some variations. So black played rook f8, we saw rook c8, but now, black dared to gobble and basically, had the intention of letting white queen. But the two rooks versus queen situation, white felt was hopeless after d3 and resigned. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please leave any comments on YouTube. Thanks very much.